Hi there and welcome to this video lesson. My name is Phry McDunstan. I'm a guitarist, guitar teacher and producer of my own music. So I don't know if you've noticed this, but there's a new guitar meme circling around the internet, mostly on Instagram and mostly underneath the posts of a certain guitar manufacturing company that's more into making pricier high-end guitars. And it's the so-called blues lawyer meme. And I know it's there to make fun of people who have a little too much money on their hands due to their profession and thus buying these high-end, very pricey guitars for lots of money, but who also due to their profession maybe don't have the time to spend a lot of time with their instruments and thus stick to playing simple pentatonic lines over very simple 12-bar blues progressions. And yeah, those people most certainly exist, but I also have the feeling that a lot of guitar players still think that blues is a very simple music style, and that even if you learn how to play it a little and after understanding the basics, you can move on to something else and thus make far more progress and become a great guitarist without ever thinking about the blues again. But when even a guy like Paul Gilbert, who is known for both his technical prowess on the guitar but also the very musical approach to his playing, says that whenever he played the blues, he took his playing to a new level because the blues is much more complicated than you think. I think it's time to take a little closer look at the blues and explain to you why the blues is actually a very complicated music style and how you can elevate your playing even if you are a quote-unquote modern guitar player if you take a closer look at this style. So first of all, the fact that we are improvising over 3 dominant 7th chords instead of 2 major 7th chords and 1 dominant 7th chord as we would do within our normal diatonic scale, forces us to really pay attention to the notes that we are playing towards. And later on in this video, I will show you that over a simple 12-bar blues in a major key, you'll actually be able to play 6 different scales, depending on what chord you hear. But before I do that, let me show you why simply staying within your pentatonic scale is not enough to play a real great blues solo. I will now improvise over a simple 12-bar blues in A major, but only over the first 4 bars and over the tonic chord, which is the 1 chord, A7 in this case. And I will play towards a certain note that's within this first pentatonic shape, and then I'll explain to you why this note doesn't sound right and you'll actually have to add another note to your pentatonic scale. So why didn't this sound quite right at certain points? That's because I've been playing the simple minor pentatonic over a major blues. And playing the minor pentatonic over a major blues technically works, and that's also the right scale if you want to sound bluesy. But if you're playing towards your minor third, in this case C, that is not the right interval for a major blues, because you'll always have to either bend this note towards the major third, or you can slide it, you can hammer it, or you can directly play towards this note. And that alone forces you to add a 6th note to your pentatonic scale, but only whenever you are playing over the tonic chord. Oh, and by the way, the real quote-unquote blues scale also features a 7th note, which is your blue note, and that is the flat 5 from your root. So actually there's now 7 notes we have to focus on. So now let's check out how that will sound over the tonic chord. So far so good, right? But what about when there's a chord change? And what about when we have to play over the subdominant chord of our blues progression? That is the fourth chord within a scale. In our case, that's a D7 chord. And if we first take a closer look at all the notes that make up a D major triad, those are D, which is the root, F sharp, which is its major third, and then A, which is its fifth. So we already have another note in here that we can and should now play towards. And our new scale that we should play over the 4 chord will now look like this. So as you can see here, this is still the first pentatonic shape, but now with an added F sharp to it. And of course you can also add the same blue note if you like. So these two E flats here. But now let's improvise over the 4 chord using this new scale for a couple of seconds. But that's not all, because since we are playing over a D 7th chord or a D dominant 7th chord, we'll have another note that we can play towards, and this time it's our C, because that's the dominant 7 of a D chord. So whenever you hear the chord change from your tonic chord, your 1 chord, to your 4 chord, you should then stop playing towards the C sharp and instead also focus on the note C here. Yeah, so... and playing a little chromatic run from your D over D flat towards the C will sound amazing. So let me quickly just demonstrate this for a second here. Okay, but now there's also a 3rd chord within our progression, and that is the dominant chord. In our case, it's E dominant 7, and that will give us a whole new triad or tetrad to play over. But first the triad. We'll now have to add the notes A flat or G sharp and B to our scale, because that is the major third of our E chord and our 5th. So our new scale that we can and should play over the 5 chord now looks like this. And if we also add our dominant 7 D, these are the notes you should play towards. And playing over the 5 chord is a lot harder than playing over the 4 chord, because in a standard 12-bar blues progression we can only do this once in bar number 9, and depending on the backing track or what the rhythm section plays, in bar number 12. Sometimes even just for half a bar there. So in this next example, I would play over bars 9 and 10 of the backing track. So as you just saw, simply sticking to the pentatonic or even the blues scale when you're improvising over a 12-bar blues in a major key won't do it. And our quote-unquote real blues scale would look more something like this. A lot of notes, right? But here's the thing. You can't just simply shred through this scale and play every note every time, which means you'll have to start thinking less within a shape context when you improvise and more within the actual intervals of your chords, and focus more on playing the right notes at the right time, even more than over a metal or a rock backing track, for instance. And that is just the tip of the iceberg, because you can actually play up to 6 different scales over these chords. And if you want to play across the entire fretboard and not just use your first shape here, that means you'll have to learn 6 times 5 different shapes if you want to use the entire fretboard. And let me quickly explain to you what I mean by that. So when you're playing over the tonic, Not only can you play your A minor pentatonic with an added major third, but also the A major pentatonic, and then whenever you're playing over the 4 chord, you got 4 different options. You can play your A major pentatonic but towards the notes D, F sharp, and A. Or your A minor pentatonic but also with the added F sharp in there. Or you can play the actual D major pentatonic, which is a whole nother scale, and then there's also the D minor pentatonic with an added major third. And by the way, the same goes for E major as well, so you can play 4 different scales here as well. Either your A major scale, but then of course playing towards the notes E, B, and A flat. Then your A minor pentatonic, but with the added notes A flat and B. And then of course E major. And E minor with an added major third. So finally, to really prove my point here, how much more complicated than you think the blues actually is, I will now improvise over the entire 12-bar blues progression, but use these 6 different scales. Okay folks, but believe me, there's even more to playing the blues, because we haven't yet talked about our tetrads and their inversions and how you can implement this knowledge into your playing and make your blues guitar even more interesting. If you want to know how to use all these concepts not only within a blues context, but if you want to learn more about certain guitar techniques, other music styles, and take your playing and music knowledge to the next level, just click on the link in the video description or the pinned comment to get a couple of free guitar lessons from me, lots of helpful tips and advice, and consider booking your first month with my Guitar Accelerator course. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, ring the bell so you'll always know when I upload a new video. Leave a comment and maybe let me know what other things you'd like me to talk about. But for now, goodbye, and I'll see you in the next video.